And then towards, I think, the last month of preparation, I was sort of working more on time management, getting into the rhythm in order to ensure that, okay, there would be maybe 2 or 3 questions where I can end up getting stuck. So I need to have that exam perspective in mind also to just sort of mark an answer, go ahead. From the get-go, you aim for a high score. And that is something that I also had in my mind. But like when you sort of watch Sandeep sir also, so he sort of reinforces that during, because it's a longer prep journey, right? It's a 3 4 month prep journey, and you might, let's say, if you're not getting those kind of scores, you might sort of lose that vision in your head. So I think that was reinforced, and you should try for the best possible score. And the way this course is structured, it is something that can get you there even if you don't have your foundations right. The fourth thing is probably we have like quants, verbal, and DI. But the fourth section is just having that exam mentality and being composed. I think what I sort of reinforced in myself was GMAT is again at the end of the day an aptitude test, right? And
Big congratulations from top 1% from Sandeep sir. Look at that score as well. Quant 86 percentile, verbal 85 percentile, data insights 84 percentile. So how did you feel about it right at the moment? Because then immediately almost you had fever. We could not have any conversation.
yeah.
But how was your feeling when you have this score, 98
I
percentile?
mean, it was amazing because I mean this is what I was targeting, that like my score should start with a 7. That is what the target had been throughout. But interestingly, while I felt that I had prepared well, I was in a position to get this kind of a score going into the exam. But the actual exam experience, it was not the smoothest. So it was a bit of a surprise to me also when that score popped up on that screen.
Right. Why would you say it wasn't the smoothest? Was it the
Um,
exam questions itself or the environment? What was wrong?
So, actually, two things. So when I had been giving the mocks and like whatever scores I had been getting, so I had a sense. Typically, when I was getting 700 plus kind of a score, while giving the exam, you sort of understand that, okay, I'm doing well, things are going smooth, you're managing your time well. But during the actual exam day, so I always start with verbal. Verbal is my strong area. It always has been. But I did have a challenge with time management in both the quants and DI sections. So I
Oh,
had to take certain leaps of faith in terms of sort of going with the best guess answer and sort of coming to back to it again to review. So it was not the smoothest experience that way. So I did not honestly, during the exam, I did not honestly think I would actually cross that 700 mark.
right. But you were at least there in the moment and giving all your best and applied all the strategy, exit strategy.
Yeah. I think on the exam day, what really helped and without which this score could not have been achieved was, even if there were places where I was getting stuck at the moment, I sort of maintained my calm and composure throughout. So, and like even if I am sort of like, let's say I end up with two options, I know one of these two is right. So I had that sort of composure in me to take a very reasonable guess and move forward. And I think that sort of helped out.
Right. Perfect. So let's just go a little back. Please tell me about very interesting profile though. So tell me about yourself. What have you been doing, and how did you get the idea to take the GMAT? What was your plan moving forward? Also, just take us through the entire chronological order of, how did you get into studying and what material you used to finally, what all did you do before the exam?
Got it. So in terms of my background, born and brought up in Kolkata, did my graduation from SRCC in BCom honors.
Right.
Right after SRCC, moved to a management consulting role with Accenture Strategy.
Right.
So traveled all across India, worked with different clients for about 2.5 years. And then earlier this year, I shifted to again in a strategy role with the founders office at Boat. So yeah, similar work, but within a startup. So that is what I had been doing. I sort of, even while I was back in Accenture, I had this plan of going for an MBA. I wanted to have some years of experience under my belt before I sort of go there. And I was also sort of figuring out where exactly I want to do my MBA from. Do I want to go abroad or not? So all of those is something I was figuring out. But then soon after shifting to Boat, I sort of realized that I need to take the first step, which is taking the GMAT, irrespective of like my plans with the colleges and stuff. So the idea was to at least start the journey, start preparing for GMAT, and start preparing it with the goal of getting the best possible score, because that sort of leaves you with all possibilities. You can decide what you want to do. So yeah, I mean, right now the idea, and like given the timelines, I finally was able to take my GMAT at. I have applied to ISB. That is a big priority for me, and from a round one perspective. And parallelly, right now I'm figuring out a couple of more schools to apply in round two, given my score again.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I started my prep journey in around May. Um, given the situation with my work, because it is difficult to manage work and studies, and after such like so many years of gap, so I had decided I want to go with a coaching just to ensure that I have a structured way of knowing everything I want to know and closing out my preparation in a 3 month time frame.
Right.
And given a lot of folks I know from SRCC who have taken the GMAT, who have gone to like both my juniors, my seniors, batchmates. So a lot of them who have got these good scores, all of them had like taken their preparation from top 1%. So yeah, I mean, I scheduled a call. I saw like, and that was reason enough for me to sort of go ahead with that. Uh, Primarily what I wanted was I wanted a structure because I did not really have the time to figure everything out myself. So that was one. And second of all, I wanted to sort of optimize my preparation in terms of I would rather solve less questions but get more depth,
Yeah.
right? Because the idea is at the end of the 3 months, I want to get to the score I am targeting for myself. So there, at least top 1%, the way the curriculum, the content, the strategies, everything was structured, that really helped. The way it happened was I was targeting to, given the deadlines for all colleges, those are in September, I was targeting to sort of finish my prep, take the GMAT end of July or early August. But given some constraints with my work, finally, and given the timelines of ISB, which was 15 September, I finally ended up scheduling the GMAT. I was like, I should be in a position by then where I get a good score. So I just went ahead with it. And I think just booking that exam in advance also really helped in the last couple of weeks to sort of push.
Right. So, when you initially started, you mentioned you were always good with verbal. So, quant and DI, were the strengths or were the weaknesses? And how was it different when you looked at the entire syllabus and then you was trying to prepare with the material? What kind of helped you to overcome that challenge?
So, the good thing for me was I have been good at verbal and I enjoy preparing and studying for verbal as well. And the way the course is designed, it sort of focuses at least on the beginning more on the verbal side of things. So that at least helped me get into the groove of studying, right?
Right.
Um, DI was a new section, right? And typically, I mean, I wouldn't say I was good or bad at it. So indifferent to DI and typically, but DI is a whole different monster. I think you think you know it, but when you actually end up giving the test, you end up making some mistakes. So indifferent to DI. The good thing was while I wasn't the best at quants, or there was a block when it came to solving quant problems. Quant is the most controllable section, right? Because it is directly related to certain, you need to know the concepts, you need to know the principles, and there is a set of questions that typically comes up that was more easier to overcome. And like I think the way the foundation was laid from the very beginning in the pre-work, that sort of helped. Because when it comes to, let's say, verbal, you have to sort of unlearn and wire your brain to think and understand things in a certain manner. That is not the case with quants. I think so. Basically, getting that foundation right helped. And then towards, I think, the last month of preparation, I was sort of working more on time management, getting into the rhythm in order to ensure that, okay, there would be maybe 2 or 3 questions where I can end up getting stuck. So I need to have that exam perspective in mind also to just sort of mark an answer, go ahead. And what I have realized across all three sections is, and this is something that I was working on the last 2 weeks of my preparation, was actually across all three sections, just working on that time management bit and working on that exam mentality perspective, because I realized whenever I was getting stuck in 1, 2 questions, that was derailing the entire section altogether. And whenever I was sort of letting those go for a bit, I was typically ending up in a position where I have 5 minutes at the end to come back and correct those. So I think that helped.
So, one of the things I think I'm hopeful that you'd answer, especially about data insights, everybody almost I've not seen anyone really love data insight except for the ones who are working like this in the background. You know, they are data analysts or data scientists.
Yeah.
You know, they've been working and they are the ones who find data insights to be their best bet, right? But again, for most of us, for most of them, data insights is a monster, like you stated. So, how did you approach data insight, both in the preparation and in your practice phase?
So one thing is, again, because I was just sticking to how the course was structured, data insights came after verbal and quant,
Right.
and I think that helped because ultimately, like Sandeep sir has also mentioned, what I also realized at the end, looking at my mistakes, data insights is about time management and about your comprehension.
Right.
Because I was realizing wherever I'm getting wrong, it is never because I don't understand the concept or something. It is because I missed in my understanding of the question. And it is very difficult to manage these things together, because if you are focusing on getting it right quickly, you end up compromising on the comprehension part. So it
Right.
was a struggle from that perspective. I think the work that I do work-wise also, it is very data-oriented, graphs and tables-oriented. So I mean, I enjoyed preparing for data insights, but I was realized I was making mistakes.
Right.
And it was always the same reason. So I think for data insights, I sort of looked at data sufficiency separately and all other questions, integrated reasoning separately. I realized in terms of like data sufficiency was the more controllable variable, wherein I could sort of do some dedicated practice, understand the different kinds of traps to ensure that, okay, if I'm getting X number of questions wrong in the DS, in the data insight section, I would not want to make a lot of mistakes in data sufficiency. And then integrated reasoning, I think it was towards the end just practice, right? Because you have to be in that time bound environment, very concentrated. And I just tried to ensure that I am making 0 to 1 mistakes in data sufficiency, so that I have some cushion of getting some questions wrong in
Oh,
integrated reasoning.
right.
Yeah, so I think DS was more structured practice. IR was just giving sectionals and mocks at the end.
Right. So coming back again in verbal, you said verbal has been your strong suit. You have enjoyed preparing, but verbal is also very tricky in GMAT, right? So there's so many traps. And how did you find the usage of Octave, or in all the part of CR, ACT, A&T technique? How did that come into any kind of a rescue in your preparation?
Yeah. So verbal was actually a mix of two things. One is again like I have been good at it. So there are some things which I subconsciously am able to understand the gist of the passage. I am sort of able to figure out where it makes sense to, because there are some passages that just come up and irrespective of the amount of time you spend, you won't be able to understand it end to end. So I think I already had an approach towards verbal. What really helped is you have to also approach it in a slightly mechanical fashion. And when I say mechanical fashion, I mean, let's say I did not take the coaching material, right? I would face 4 to 5 questions wherein maybe I am able to eliminate 3 answer choices, but I'll be stuck at the last 2 option choices, right? And because I would be like, okay, both seem to be fine, like from a normal world perspective, but GMAT has a logic when it is sort of making those questions and it was at those points where sort of Octave came into play, because like if I just consider those questions outside the scope of GMAT, maybe both are strong option choices, but because there were such structured and directed insights from Octave, and that is something I had been preparing for since May. So everything was already hardwired into my brain. So like there were situations where I don't need to read the option choice altogether. I'm just looking at the first word. I know this cannot be the right answer. So I think it just helped bridge the gap wherein I would have otherwise gone with a hunch, so to speak, to a place where when I'm actually attempting the questions, I'm very confident that this is the only possible answer choice for most questions. And that sort of helped me ensure that whenever I'm attempting a verbal sectional or a mock in verbal, like that used to be a section where I could be confident that here I'm making the least mistakes. So verbal was a section where towards the end I did not have to sort of go back, look where I'm sort of getting things wrong. I had to optimize more for quants and DI, because number one, verbal I think I had some comfort with already, and then because of all the techniques that were told, and like when you actually are going through the videos, you also sort of, because of like the way Sandeep sir approaches all the questions, you sort of are able to see how he's approaching the questions, and that is in turn developing your thought process. So verbal, I think, was a smooth ride from the beginning. So that helped. And then when it comes to critical reasoning, because that was something new, reading comprehension is still relatively intuitive.
Yeah.
So critical reasoning, again, these are 5 topics, and then you sort of get to hardwire those techniques into your brain. And then when you are looking at a question, like it immediately clicks after 1 month, 2 months of preparation, it immediately clicks. Acha, this is probably either wrong or this is probably the right answer.
Right.
So that is something that was possible because of the coaching.
Right. So I think especially with the DS trap also, when you can't have a probability of an answer, it's like either, full yes or no. And so, to eliminate those traps. So you spoke earlier that you did have a small break because of work, right? How difficult or easy was it to kind of slide back into your preparation? Because generally, as we know, it becomes very difficult. We wouldn't have anticipated this kind of a work suddenly coming in. And if someone is taking a break, that's almost a setback, right? You have to really spend double the time to come back into the GMAT preparation, because this exam is not like any other. So how was it for you to come back into the practice?
When I started with my prep, I did have like my work schedule was such that I could devote 2 hours of prep on the weekdays and then stretch more in the weekends, which is appropriate when it comes to GMAT prep. And I think for 7 to 10 days it went well. And like I had sort of decided that even if I'm not able to, like I'll try to ensure that I am getting in some kind of study done every day, even if it is an hour's worth of study, because I have realized even in past that just doing it on a daily basis, even if you're not able to sort of meet that 2 hour, 3 hour kind of a target you have, that really helps as opposed to sort of maybe devoting the same amount of hours, but then you are not able to work in the weekdays and you are sort of stretching in the weekends. That consistency helps. But realistically, how things worked out for me is my like basically I had got a new project which I had to work on, and it was very erratic. So um, for me, every day I had to sort of figure out how much time I'll be able to devote to my prep. And it was not constant in terms of I'm studying in the morning or I'm studying at night. So actually, for I would say about a month, it was very erratic for me and like managing work and studies. Beyond that, what I did was, and which is why actually my GMAT plan also sort of got deferred from let's say August to I ended up giving it end of August. But I think the way I went about it was I sort of figured my work schedules. My idea was on most days, let me just try to sort of get up early in the morning and get done with whatever prep I can do in the morning itself.
Right.
Because then sort of work takes over and then it becomes very difficult to sort of get those 1 to 2 hours in later at night. So
Right.
if I'm able to sort of like my funda was if I'm able to get my prep done in the morning, then like because priority was GMAT, my day is successful.
Right. Right.
So the idea was while I could not sort of stick to it on a 100% basis, I was trying to get like good preparation done 2 to 3 days on the weekdays at least. And then whatever I was not able to do, I was sort of compensating for that on the weekends. The other thing that I did was I considered whether sort of to prioritize and optimize for stuff, maybe skip a few things where I think like I wouldn't have too much of a challenge in. But what I did was at least the study plan I sort of stuck to that very in a very disciplined way because what I thought was I was not giving mocks right on a regular basis. I sort of had started with a preliminary mock and then I was just working to get the study material completed. My logic was if I go stick to the study plan, I am subconsciously building the depth. So once I sort of complete that study plan and end up taking a mock, I want to be in a position where I am getting a good score so that I don't have to sort of work again, end up giving a lot of mocks before I feel I'm ready. So I sort of over indexed on the first part of the preparation, which is the pre-mock period. And I think that really helped me in building that depth, which is why I was like, let me not sort of put my brain into the picture when it comes to the course content, the study plan. And then like once that was done with, there was a lot of post work also, right? The which are the on the mock portal, what are the tests and exercises that you need to do. So I sort of optimized over that, optimized there because I was not able to complete everything.
Correct. Okay.
So I sort of took a mock. I saw that okay, I'm getting a score in the ballpark that I like, which is a good score for me. And then sort of like looking at the weak areas and improving on that. So probably if I had optimized during the initial prep phase, I might have ended up spending a lot of time in the mock phase.
Okay. Right. So how did the mock progression happen? So what was your first mock score like? And then, final score we all know. But just before the exam, what was your mock score and what was the first mock and what kind of progression you saw?
I think a couple of weeks, 2, 3 weeks into my preparation, I had taken that preliminary mock.
Like this?
That was not before starting my prep, so to speak, but I had got a 650, 645 on that.
Right.
And I mean, I sort of considered that to be a lucky score also because I was taking a lot of guesses while I was giving that mock. Right after my preparation, the first mock I gave, I think I got a 675.
Okay.
Right, I got a 675, and my scores were moving in that 675 to the 705 mark only. I think I would have ended up giving 4 or 5 marks.
Hmm.
And after my preparation, there was a mock that I had taken where I got a 655 also, which was not a very good mock, but there I realized that I had to sort of work on my approach to giving the exam, because I realized in that particular mock I was getting stuck on questions. I did not have uh, time to answer easy questions also later. So I think in the last 7 to 10 days of my prep, when I was actually taking those mocks, I was like completely over indexing on sort of like doing the questions very quickly. So even if I give you an example of the verbal section. So I mean, I know that I have on an average 2 minutes per question. But if I'm able to sort of like, I was maintaining a rapid pace in the initial bit, because if you are able to answer, like, let's say the first 7, 8 odd questions very quickly, you are confident of what you have solved, that sort of leaves up a lot of room for you
Right,
to the end. And I think with verbal, you can still sort of pace everything out. With quants also, you can pace everything out because it's 20 questions, 45 minutes.
right.
The problem comes in DI, because you might, like, first 10 questions you might be getting things right, you are maybe approaching it well, but you get one difficult MSR set or something, and that can completely derail you. So from the very beginning, when you start with a section, I think uh, if possible you should try and build a cushion for some difficult questions that may come up later, and those difficult questions will come if you are sort of answering questions correctly.
Right.
So I think that is what I like, and that sort of really helped when I say I sort of moved from a given mock score of let's say a 655 or even a 675 to a 700 plus score. I think it was less to do with me addressing certain weak areas. It was more to do with how I was approaching the
Yes.
mock in terms of time management and composure.
Perfect, perfect. So, and in the exam experience, you already mentioned about few of the things in the very beginning, but overall, we know the order that you've chosen and why you've chosen, you already mentioned, but overall exam experience, the type of questions that you seen in the exam, were you taken by surprise? Could you just wrap it up in a couple of words properly?
Yeah. So none of the questions were surprising. I'll tell you that in terms of the question type and in terms of the difficulty of questions, because I think the way the content is structured, it is preparing you to answer those difficult questions from the get-go. And which is why I think even difficult questions in verbal or quants, those were sort of commonplace for me. Like, I was expecting those kind of questions to come up. So uh, nothing new. I was very comfortable with the questions. What also helped was like the mock portal, like the one that we have in top. It is like a one-to-one replica of what is there in the actual exam. So like everything you have already sort of practiced given those mocks. So the actual GMAT exam, that is not new to you at all.
Mm.
I think the only difference is there is a difference in the level of anxiety or the level of comfort you have when you are taking a mock at home versus when you are finally in the exam center. So I think the only again, I'll sort of repeat what I said. The only two things which were sort of different for me was one being having that sort of mental composure, and I sort of made it sure, because I knew that if my like if it is a make or break, it will be because of my calmness and composure. So thankfully, I was able to sort of maintain that well. And the other was time management. That
Right,
had so that is something that can sort of vary from exam to exam. But yeah, again, nothing was new. I was just trying to, like, so let's say midway through my quant section, even if I'm feeling that things were not going bad, but they were not going the best, I would say. So like the thought process was like, I am giving this exam right now. Let me optimize it to the extent I can.
right,
And I think that sort of worked in my favor, because like you said, if I have to give you, because I was taking some intelligent guesses, so to speak. But I mean, even on the back of those intelligent guesses, let's say I'm not solving a question end to end and being 100% sure that what I'm marking is the right one. But let's say I'm 80% there, and like I have solved a lot of questions. I have solved those kind of trap questions also. So I have sort of a subconscious understanding of like what would probably be right.
right.
So I sort of tried to utilize those, and it was all because of the preparation again,
Mm.
because I knew, okay, these are the types of questions that come up. And let's say for data sufficiency, right? Um, what is covered in the course in terms of the type of questions as well as the difficulty, what you will get in the GMAT will 100% be a subset of that.
Right,
So nothing will be new. You would already, like, reading a question, if you have sort of practiced enough, you would at least know that probably this is where this question will try to trap me. So you are also approaching your answer that way.
right. So Rishabh, it's been so good talking to you. If I think if Sandeep sir would have to, like, he gives a set of rules and instructions to follow for a student, right? And he would hope that you'd follow the same way. When I listened to your story, you followed exactly to the T,
Right.
right? And if he had to say that, can you, if he was asked, probably, can you tell me one student who is, stick to the rule, I can, confidently point it out and say Rishav has been that. So essentially, you followed whatever we asked you, all the do's, don'ts, you've done whatever has been said. So if I may ask this question, what is that one advice that you haven't heard from sir or from somebody else, but you have really put that through and that proved to be fruitful, and you would like to share that with someone who is starting out new? What is that advice? Could be do's or could be don'ts, a list of it. So,
I
yeah.
mean, I think whatever I say, it is an extension of what has been said by Sandeep sir in the course. But I think I'll tell you what, like, three things that worked out the most for me. One is, from the get-go, you aim for a high score. And that is something that I also had in my mind. But like, when you sort of watch Sandeep sir also, so he sort of reinforces that during, because it's a longer prep journey, right? It's a 3-4 month prep journey, and you might, let's say, if you're not getting those kind of scores, you might sort of lose that vision in your head. So I think that was reinforced, and you should try for the best possible score. And the way this course is structured, it is something that can get you there even if you don't have your foundations right. So I think that ambition helped. That was one. um, Second thing is, again, sticking to the study plan. The idea was not to reinvent the wheel, and I did not have that kind of time in my hands to sort of get into a trial and error, figure out where to get the best content from, and sort of prepare a study plan for myself. So I think that is something that's done for you beautifully. So that would be second. Um, Third would be sort of maintaining that daily consistency, which, truth be told, I was not able to sort of follow to the T. But I think I sort of realized that if I'm sort of getting back to my preparation after even a 3-4 day break, for whatever reason be it, it becomes difficult to get into the groove of things, even though cumulatively you might be spending the same hours. So the idea is to optimize your hours accordingly.
Correct.
And I think these are three things. And the fourth thing is, probably we have like quants, verbal, and DI. But the fourth section is just having that exam mentality and being composed. I think what I sort of reinforced in myself was, GMAT is, again, at the end of the day, an aptitude test, right? And even before my prep, when I took the preliminary exam, it's not like there was no question which I sort of did not know how to answer,
Right.
right? Because you are in a position to sort of take that exam anytime,
Hmm.
right? Because it's not very like, it's aptitude at the end of the day.
Very
So
true.
I sort of had that confidence and trust that, okay, like, obviously, if you're not getting those scores in your mocks, I don't think you can get it miraculously in your exam. So you have to get there, but you have to have that confidence that, okay, let's see, even if there are topics where you are not the most comfortable with, there would be one or two questions in the exam that would come from those, and you can still solve that through sheer logic.
Hmm.
That the only difference is, probably you would spend up more time answering those questions. So that is a mix that you will have to figure out for yourself.
Fantastic insights. I don't, it's been such a great time talking this morning to you. You've really nailed everything that a student should do, an aspirant should be doing to get this kind of a score. And here's again wishing all the very best. I really wish ISB will definitely happen, okay? But I think then I have a feeling you could be doing so much more, and you could be really looking at even the M7. I mean, that's the possibility. That's what you started off with. I think that's the possibility as well. You should really be connecting with authority if you haven't already. Well, you have to, at least it banta hai, you should connect with authority to just discuss your possibilities, because you have a fantastic profile again. He would tell you exactly, at least a small conversation, where can you reach and what are your potential when you go there, and beyond that, what can you do,
Mhm.
right? And here's wishing you all the best, and I hope you apply to the best of the school and get an admit. And again, we are very proud. Sandeep sir is extremely proud, and thank you for choosing Sandeep sir, and thank you for trusting him in this journey of your preparation. We are very humbled, and again, wishing you all the very best.
Thanks, Natasha.
You have a good day. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye bye.